Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode. Like, how many anothers have we had? Over 300 anothers?
Yeah, over 300 anothers.
Over 300 another episode of Film Seizure. Today's movie, I'll introduce those two fools here in a second, but today's movie is 1981's Knightriders with a K, and not to be confused with Knight Rider with Michael Knight and Kit, the car. This movie,
with a K, but
this movie's not about cars. This
No.
movie's about bikes, man.
Yep.
This movie's about bikes. George Romero's Knightriders, 1981. Jeff, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Jeff Arbuckle here. I'm glad you invited me here, King Jason. Very excited to be here to joust for the honor of the crown.
and also we have Merlin here, Chuck Moore. How you doing? How you doing there, Chuck?
Jason, you forgot your basics. You're supposed to introduce us first.
I forgot my basics. I did.
Yeah.
My basics.
Hello, everyone. Chuck Moore, coming to you from a phone booth today.
Yeah. Well, you're on site for what is sure to be a wonderful clash of knights in the jousting tournament for today in what I think they say is Bakersfield, like as in California, but this is totally filmed in Pittsburgh.
Oh yeah, this movie's all over Pennsylvania. I mean, They drive through Gettysburg at one point.
But they keep referencing California towns.
Yeah. It's hilarious.
Bizarre.
It's like you realize you're in Pennsylvania and you haven't left, right?
This is a George Romero movie.
Exactly. It's got to be shot in Pittsburgh with Pittsburgh crew. That's just how he rolls. All right. So Knightriders. Why Knightriders? Good question. This is only the second time I've seen this movie, which is one more time than Chuck and Jeff.
Yes.
I was during the pandemic kind of catching up on some back catalog George Romero stuff. I'd always been intrigued by this movie, mostly because of the poster, which really is about as little to do with the movie as possible.
I've got so much to say about a lot of going into this. So yeah,
but it's like it kind of makes it look like this post-apocalyptic fantasy epic that the poster does. But yeah, I was going through Romero's back catalog, checking out stuff I'd never seen before, checking out stuff I hadn't seen in a while. So watching stuff like Martin for the first time, Season of the Witch for the first time, and this for the first time.
Martin Lawrence really was pretty good in Martin.
Yeah.
I remember watching that a lot in the 90s.
Means there's a spider on your head. Means there's a vampire drinking your blood. Martin is good. That's one we should do
it is really
at some point as well. And in fact, Romero, I was surprised to hear him say in an interview that Martin and Knightriders are his two favorite movies that he's made. And he made them back
it's kind of like, I mean, if you think about it though, like you have a movie like Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead, up to this point, he was the zombie guy, right? Like,
sure. Yeah, exactly.
You really don't, I mean, you don't even really think about Creepshow necessarily being his either. Like,
right.
That's like the third or fourth or fifth fact that I remember about that movie. I remember a lot of other things. And by the way, it's also George Romero. And also, by the way, he did, Tales from the Dark Side and all of that stuff. And it's like, he's it's kind of like, we were talking about Smashing Pumpkins before because we were talking about weirdo soundtracks from the 90s. And, for a little while, they were pretty tired of playing Today. They're pretty tired of talking about that movie or that song. And I'm pretty sure that George Romero is like, Night of the Living Dead made, buttered the bread, but I like to eat other bread now.
All right. Well, real quick though, let's do a quick filmography check. So he obviously made Night of the Living Dead, and then he made There's Always Vanilla, which I still haven't seen. I've not heard good things about it, and he doesn't like it himself.
Is it even available?
It's like his romantic comedy. I think you could get it through Arrow.
Okay.
And then Season of the Witch is really good.
I like that movie. Yeah.
Yeah, it's got some good stuff, and it's a lot more than a scary movie. It is. There's a lot of subtext going on in that movie. It's more of a human drama. The Crazies, of course, that was wild. And then we won't really talk about Amusement Park. That's kind of an enigma. But then Martin and Dawn of the Dead, right? Mm-hmm. That was his 70s. Coming into this one, he Knightriders, which is what he made after Dawn of the Dead, which is like the most unlikely follow-up to one of the greatest horror movies ever made, right? He teamed up with back up with Donald Rubinstein, who was a co-producer on Dawn, and he's agreed to finance 3 movies as long as one of them was another Dead movie, and so that's how he got to make this, and then Creepshow. So he said this was the greatest time of his life making movies. He had full control. He had nobody meddling. He was left to do whatever he wanted to do. And yeah, he made this weirdo motorcycle movie. And it's funny too, because this originally, the script was supposed to be more straightforward, like actual Camelot type story. But when he was pitching it to Rubinstein apparently was a big motorcycle movie guy. Said if you make it motorcycles instead of horses, then maybe you've got something. And so Romero was like, well, screw that. I'm not doing that. And then a couple of years later, he came back around to the script and he started kind of thinking about that idea. And he's like, well, you know what? That could work. So he retooled the script to make it contemporary with motorcycles.
That's pretty funny. And I mean, I'm going to admit to you something. I thought, like you said, this was going to be some sort of a weird fantasy, like literal feudal system with motorcycles left over from like a bombed out, like post-apocalypse.
Absolutely.
You know, I was thinking this is going to be some sort of Mad Max sort of situation, right? And then I didn't watch a trailer. I didn't bother watching the trailer. I started the movie. Here's Ed Harris, sleeping out in the wilderness with his lady, and they put on their armor and and I know that there's a motorcycle.
And that could still fit. That could still fit with your preconception.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm like, okay, we're going good. And then they're driving to an event, and it's like, wait a minute, those roads have lines painted on them. Those roads look pretty good for a post-apocalypse. And then they get to like a fairground, and it's just like normal yokels and shit. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but I guess I'm going to find out over the next 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. You're going to find all about this roving band of motorcycle circus performers.
I was kind of surprised, Jeff, at your 9 minutes into the movie saying you're going to need to explain this to me. I'm like, you've only seen 9 minutes. Give it some time, man.
Well, you've got 2 hours and 10 minutes left.
I still have. Yeah, I mean, over 117 more minutes. I did figure it out, but I still have questions. But the questions I have are now better fit into what plays out in the movie.
Sure.
Because as I said to you, Jason, privately, after I finished the movie, this movie has no business being this good.
Yeah.
I mean, the concept should not work. And yet I'm 20 minutes in and I'm like, I give a shit about every single thing that's going on in this troop's world.
It's oddly engrossing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the reason for that, for me, is his earnestness. It really, you could just tell that the people making this kind of give a shit, and that Romero is trying to kind of say something, and he's everything is played so straight because it is, and yes, I will acknowledge that this is a goofy movie, right? You cannot get away from the goofiness, But
I'm
there's
not
something else happening there in parallel with all that goofiness that is a real compelling human drama.
I'm not surprised you like it, Jason, because in a lot of ways, this reminds me of Twin Peaks. And it's soap opera-esque
Sure.
kind
It's
of
the
elements.
melodrama of it, yeah.
Yeah, and it's weird. It's quirky. It's like, it's not quirky in the sense of a Lynch film. It's just quirky in the sense of story, you know? But Jeff, I'm shocked that you like this movie. I don't know why. I just
I knew he would. I just knew he would. I had this gut feeling that Jeff was going to dig it.
Well, I'm just gonna give you some of the stuff that I thought about while I was watching this, because like I said, it is very, very oddly compelling what's going on. And a lot of that is because we spend every minute of this movie with this group of people that we understand who they are, even if I don't know any of their names really.
Or their backgrounds even. You kind of understand who they are in this time and place.
Right. Well, I understand who they are. I understand why they're here. I understand kind of the dynamic of this, right? It's a fantasy within a real world that has a real business element to it also. And it's, it's like, and it's like Ed Harris is trying to kind of live in this fantasy, but when he's confronted with realism, it's harsh, and it's like,
yeah.
But I got to thinking about like other movies that have made me think about, or that it reminded me of, like, and I've talked about this movie before, Carney from 1980.
Yeah, I haven't seen that yet.
You spend the entire movie in the carnival. You understand what everybody's role is, what they mean to each other, who, how they all have to kind of chip in here. It's a little society inside society as a whole. And another Carney sort of thing is, you very quickly get the same thing from Freaks. Or from Nightmare Alley, where you're with these types of people and you start to understand that really, really deeply and really, really well. And it really kind of enhances the movie as a whole. And it does end up making this movie, I kind of also like to call it, kind of wonderfully quaint also. In the sense that it is such a silly idea, but that earnestness, it's like, this is kind of a real movie. This is a real story being told here. And on the surface, it seems inconsequential, but as you kind of go along with this troop of people, it's a whole different beast by the time you end, and it's a real story being told.
Yeah, and I think part of it too is you're dropped right into it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot to kind of unpack as you go through its runtime, which I will say feels a little long. This may be a little overwrought at times, but there's kind of the fun of a movie like this for me is like, okay, how does all of this work? How did we get here? Right? And they never really beat you over the head with backstory, but they give you just enough in the way people react to each other and the way people talk and the conflicts that arise. They give you enough information to kind of piece together how they got here and how where they are now. It's kind of teetering between them losing the plot of what made it special to begin with and actually becoming a business. And some people are on the side of it becoming a business. And then some people are on the side of, well, why can't things be like they used to be and how they were when we were just doing this as a community for ourselves, right?
Well, it's funny to say this too, but it's like a lot of there were several, or at least there are a couple of instances where YouTube people would form these little like communities and these troops where maybe everybody is doing their own thing, but sometimes they come together for something, or sometimes they're just doing but they're all part of like a network. And as the moment that things got big, then starts the drama within the group, right? And it's like some people are trying to hang on to, well, this is the way things have always been done, and some other people are like, yeah, but it ain't good for me. I'm always going to be second fiddle to this or that or the other.
Well,
and
yeah, I mean, we have experience with that here at Film Seizure. I mean, Julie, the backseat driver, she got too big, tried to blow the whole thing up, tried to split us and divide us. And she just went off on her own, and that's fine. Julie, do your thing. But don't try and sow seeds of dissent here at Film Seizure. We won't have it. Won't have it, Julie.
Exactly right, King Jason.
I'm trying to fight the dragon, Julie.
I didn't have Julie, this backseat driver, on my bingo card today. I am fucked.
Well, it's a good thing. It's a good thing I had Chuck audio problems on mine, because I think I just bingoed with that. But anyway, no. Something else that's really interesting about this, and I'm sure we'll get into much more detail about this, but Tom Savini is ostensibly the villain of this movie. And yet it is treated very much as we will hear complaints from Stephen King throughout the first scene of the movie. It is very much like wrestling, where there is, yes, he is the rival, but he is not the bad guy. Yeah. I don't actually ever, except for, maybe there's some things he does or that's unsavory, particularly when it comes to his relationships and stuff. But I don't really blame him for wanting his own piece of the pie.
He represents like progressive, being a progressive person. So if you think that's evil or not, like, or even capitalist, right? Like, he's bringing something to a feudal society that wouldn't normally be there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
He's not trying to split anybody up. He's not trying to create schism. He in his mind is truly doing what he feels would be best for everyone. He's like, look, money can solve a lot of problems.
Yeah, because they constantly talk about how much trouble they have getting from town to town.
Yeah.
And you know, like George Romero's wife, Christine Forrest, is like the mechanic, and she can only go, I mean, like, by the end of this movie, they are literally running on fumes and broken down bikes that, you know, she can't fix anymore. She's like, you have one more go at this. That's all you have left, you know, and that's, yeah, they're struggling, but yet, you know, I understand you want to keep things the way they were, but at the same time, it's like, you know, the realism of it is bad.
He's the practical one, yeah, for sure. And Ed Harris, Billy, he's the dreamer. He's the idealist of the group, right? And he's the one who started this whole thing. And a lot of the people who came along are a part of this because of him and because of those early ideals that he instilled in this group. But he also has a problem with accepting everyone. Problem, you know, in air quotes, may or may not be one, but he can't have it both ways. He can't provide for everyone in this group without, you know, making it a business. And,
right, and if it's going to be a business, he can't be a king anymore.
To that. Right, that too.
Yeah, it's like you know, it's like he is acting like a king, but at the same time, it's like it can't work that way. It's, you know, it's like it just isn't. These people are coming from a society that has a little bit more democracy than what a kingdom would.
And you know, even his girlfriend, his lover, she's still there, but she even tells him, you know, I don't think that I'm here for you anymore. That's why I stayed for as long as I did, but now I'm here for something else. I'm not here for you. So even his like most closest confidants, even Merlin, is trying to, like, you know, talk to him and say, hey, look, you're pushing things too far. You gotta be nicer to people. You gotta listen to people, right? Because you're right. He's still like living this fantasy in his head while trying to somehow keep that reality that he instilled in this group. But it's destined to have to change.
Here's something that's vastly interesting to me, if you don't mind me interjecting.
No, go for it.
It's really obvious from the beginning that Alan and Amy are in love.
Sure.
Extremely obvious. So I'm very curious about whether Billy took Alan's girlfriend, made her his queen in the sense of this play, pretend, Ren Fair thing that became ultra serious, and Alan doesn't have his lady anymore. Right? Like, there's a weird like dynamic there the whole time. And even Alan doesn't know how to describe what Billy is doing. I really didn't even know what Alan represents in this movie, honestly. It's a major problem for me. But I don't know. It's just interesting that they're clearly in love, but she's still playing the game for Billy. Right? Like when she says what you mentioned earlier, I don't even know if I'm here for you anymore. She's talking about Alan.
Sure.
That's why she's still there. Not because of the cause.
Well, I
also think she cares about everybody else a little bit more tthan Billy seems
to. I think it's not just Billy. I mean, if it were just Billy
or Alan, you mean?
Or Alan, yeah. If it were just Alan, why and Alan is there for Billy too, then it's I mean, I don't know. I get what you're saying.
I don't mean just. I just mean like the predominant
I don't get the sense though that there was like he stole his girl. I think they're Alan and what's her name? Julie?
Lynette.
Lynette. I think that happened over time. I think what you have with Billy is someone who's stuck and isn't maturing.
I don't know. There's
isn't capable of happiness even. I think that their relationship stalled. I think she bought into all of this stuff in the beginning and then never got anything more from Billy. But then Alan, I think if Alan feels to me like someone who came along a little bit later.
No, he is Lancelot in this tale.
Yes.
I mean, ultimately.
Yeah.
But what about, I don't know, this movie's so confusing me because Billy is constantly giving himself some kind of penance.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he is not a happy dude. I was just about to mention that.
He does it right after he has sex with Lynette. So does he feel bad about that? Or is
I don't know if it's
other...
always. I don't know if it's always
well,
after. I think it's every
later.
morning.
He does it later when his indigenous friend is throwing the chicken bones. He does it then too.
Yeah, I know he does it later too. But why give yourself
maybe they
penance?
just had sex too.
Very, very likely.
I think it could just be like very much like any pleasure, right? He has to balance with pain.
That could be because I mean, like, it could also just be that he is so lost in his role that it's like this is just how he starts every day with pain, because at that point it can only be better at that point, right? And he's always making up for whatever he's waking up with, right? Like by the end of the day it'll be better, but then the next morning he's got to start from the bottom again. And it's a very, very it's almost like really, it feels almost old school biblical what he's doing to himself.
Yeah.
Where he has to feel the pain so that he feels like he has accomplished something by the end of the day.
And quite frankly, I mean, maybe he likes the pain.
Yeah, he could.
I think he's in love with the pain in a lot of ways.
Because he does jump into a lot of situations that he should not.
Yeah.
Because he's also already injured at from the previous whatever happened before the movie. He's already got a pretty nasty injury on his shoulder.
Yeah.
Whereas like on his collarbone, basically.
He's also having a dream. He's having a recurring dream of a bird, a black bird, that seems to be chasing him. And he talks to Merlin about it. And that's a really good conversation where he's like, it's just a dream. Maybe you're making too much of it. He's like, no, this feels like destiny. It feels like fate. Like that black bird is coming for me and for real, and he could be my undoing. And Merlin counters with, well, the story of King Arthur. That's like, this is not a story of King Arthur that I remember, but where he had a bunch of he had a prophecy that was said that he was going to be killed by his own son, and he had all of the sons cast away, all because all the young boys in the kingdom cast away because he was so what's the word, promiscuous. He didn't know who could possibly have sired a son of his. So he had them all cast out, and then one of them ended up being rescued by a knight and trained as a knight, became a knight, and challenged Arthur. Right? It was I assume Lancelot, right? In that story.
Well, I mean, Mordred's always the one who was his undoing.
Yes, that's true.
And he was trying. I mean, like, but
the point
we talked about Excalibur. He was magically trained by
But the point is that the Merlin's trying to explain to him is like, look, by you making a thing of it, that could be the thing that makes it happen.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Self-fulfilling prophecy. But anyway, that's the dream he's having, and yeah, I mean, he's kind of just lost in his mind a little bit. He's probably not fully mentally healthy. Our Billy.
No, I mean, it's it's one of those situations where, I mean, really, ultimately, what you have here is a very, very sophisticated LARPing. Really, is what this is. I mean, because they're living this life.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I mean, or at least they are mostly living this life. Maybe not always, but mostly living this life. And it's a coping mechanism for Billy. By the way, Ed Harris, this is only like his second or third movie.
Yeah.
Like, you fucking know this guy's got something.
Oh, for sure.
He's really good in it.
Yeah, he is.
He sells his character. He really does.
Yeah. And
it could really fall apart if it weren't for his performance.
Well, God,
and Savini too, to be honest. I thought he was really good.
Yeah, Savini's really good in this too. I mean, Ed Harris goes from this to freaking The Right Stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that is a sharp incline.
Yeah. He had the right stuff, so he went to the right stuff.
He did.
That's kind of amazing.
Yeah. But I mean, this is obviously a coping mechanism for him, and yet he still offered something to other people who also enjoyed doing this thing. But yeah, they are, after the, so they go to an event, and the event takes place almost like, it does come across like a Ren fair. People come and they see, they watch the jousting and the day's games, and Hoagie Man, who is Stephen King, is spouting off to the whole crowd about how it's all fake. It's like wrestling. It's all fake. It's all written.
That's Tabitha King with him too. She's in there.
Yep.
With him.
And
cool. You never see Tabitha.
You're right. And so they, but like,
Stephen King was just practicing for his role in Creepshow.
Oh yeah, it's meteor shit. Yeah.
Stephen King, never act again, please.
Although I don't know, I would watch a whole movie with his bumpkin character from. Oh my god, I love that.
Oh my gosh.
You would?
Oh yeah, I would.
I had enough.
Yeah, it's enough.
I love it. Anyway, so but basically there's a situation that comes up where Sir Morgan, who's Tom Savini, challenges King Billy. There's a challenge for the crown, and Billy steps in, basically, and he's already hurt, and they're basically telling him, you can't. You've got to let your own guys defend the crown. I mean, that's the point. You can't do everything, which is another one of his faults. He's always trying to be everything, and it's quickly unraveling.
Yeah.
It was already unraveling before the movie started, and it only unravels more at this point. But he ends up getting severely hurt, and he gets a gash where he was already injured. Merlin has to patch him up. He comes out of the medical tent, and this little kid comes up and says, "Will you sign your name in this magazine?" And he is incensed by this because he is basically being labeled in the article as he always says, "Well, you think I'm Evel Knievel. I'm not, we're not that. We're not Evel Knievel," or whatever.
Right.
And yet really what he's doing is stuntman style, like Daredevil type of stuff. And it is clashing with the character he thinks he is.
Sure. Yep.
So this is where this is your first sign that he cannot really handle the real world.
Yeah. He even says at one point, some people think I'm like Charlie Manson or Jim Jones, right? So he has all these perceptions of him from the public at large that don't mesh with who he sees as himself, right? And now all the people around him are having trouble seeing him as that as well. So it's a complete and total breakdown of his psyche, it's an identity crisis is in progress. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, and because like after he walks, he's like, "Sorry, kid, I'm not signing it." It's like that's not who I am, and and Tom Savini's like, "Well, hey, I'll sign it because I'm going to be the next king." He knows at that point this thing is coming to an end.
Yeah,
one way or another, what they had is now pretty much done. And it's on its last legs. Then because they're also getting hassled by the cops, and my God, these cops really hate these people. Like, this is like almost unrealistic hate.
Yeah, it's like classic kind of movie small town cop coming in to shake down the hippie performers just passing through, right? And but it's interesting because they got permission from the sheriff. Like they have permission. They had advance permission.
Yeah, this guy's just a fucking deputy.
They don't go anywhere they're not wanted. So Billy, he calls their bluff. He's like, he's not going to do shit. We've got the sheriff's permission to be here. You bring the sheriff down here, then maybe we'll have a conversation. And they leave. But they do come back later, and they arrest, what's his name?
The Bagman.
The Bagman, yeah. They arrest Bagman.
It's like, I think you probably got some weed in there or something, and it's like fat cop pulling gun instead of warrants. Like that is, I mean, and again, he's just a deputy. It's like, and he does get chewed out for his behavior.
You come to find out that, the deputy is trying to make some money on the side while the sheriff is on his fishing trip.
Yeah.
That's what you find out. And the sheriff is none too pleased about it. And even less pleased is Billy, who wants to tear him apart. Because Bagman gets the shit beat out of him in jail. Yeah. But this is an important thing because this is part of what makes Billy great and part of what makes Billy unable to lead. He refuses to let Bagman go to jail alone because he's like, there's going to be a witness. If you're going to rough him up, there's going to be a witness. And what the cops want is a bribe. They just want to be paid. But Billy's not having that either. Whereas Tom Savini is like, look, just pay him. Yeah. Just pay him.
Just get him the fuck off our back.
Just get him the fuck off our back. This is
because
how the
they're
world
leaving
works.
the next morning.
And Billy won't have it. So, in some respect, he's trying to stand up for his principles and ideals, but those principles and ideals are going to get the shit kicked out of Bagman. But then he's like, well, I'll go with you and be a witness, and maybe they won't do what they're going to do. But they do. Of course they do.
They're going to do it anyway because, again, it's going to come down to, oh, they're just saying shit. You can't believe them. They were stoned or whatever. You know, it's like he's not going to be able to convince. Like, who's he going to tell afterwards? They don't even, I mean, like, as far as they know, the sheriff is nowhere to be found anyway, and maybe the sheriff is in on this for all.
And then a lot of people are like, "This is ridiculous." There are a lot of people that count on you here. You need to not go to jail right now.
Well, yeah, because they said we got to be in Bakersfield or wherever in 3 days, and we're not going to make it if you go to jail because we don't know how long you're going to be there. And he's just like, fuck it, I don't care. You guys stay here.
He's like, wait for me. Yeah.
And like that does not
he's
fly.
Just shoot from the hip, man.
Yeah.
He's just shoot from the hip. And people, there's too many people who have a lot vested in this to not be a democracy at this point. Yep.
Right. And so Lynette's like, fuck that.
Yeah.
You, and you go do these things. The rest of us, we're leaving. It's like you're the only one who has to stay, basically, because if he's going to play these fucking games, to hell with him. And right then, you can tell she's had enough of his shit. I mean, she's already had to watch him get injured again. It's yeah.
Meanwhile, we meet
Julie Dean.
Julie, yes.
Patricia Tallman.
Yes.
She's a firecracker in this movie.
She is a firecracker in this movie. Some people may recognize her as she played was her character named Barbara as well?
Yeah.
In the Night of the Living Dead remake. She was Barbara.
Tom Savini directed.
Exactly.
And she was actually, for a while, she was also married to one J. Michael Straczynski, the creator of Babylon 5 and a pretty damn good Spider-Man writer until his final story, which is so unfortunate, but that's a story for another time.
Huh, okay.
He was the one who unfortunately his last story on Spider-Man was basically the dissolving of Peter and Mary Jane's marriage by really stupid means, editorial decision he didn't want to do. And he was stuck with it, and he will forever.
I thought this was a story for another time.
I was about to say. I thought it was a story for another time.
That's it. I'll come back to my podcast where I'll talk about Kevin Smith movies and Spider-Man one more time.
I mean, you said it. Not
I know, but that was it. That's the end of the story. Yeah, So ananyway, but she was also on Babylon 5 because
I thought I recognized her from that. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
But yeah, I know her because they made Barbara kick ass in the remake, and it's kind of awesome. I like.
Is she one of the Babylon sisters?
Babylon
shake it,
sisters, shake it.
You're gonna shake it, you're gonna shake it.
Anyway, she leaves her family, her shit ass dad, and
who beats the
mom.
shit out of her mom.
Yeah,
just for her not. What was it that he got mad at her about? That he takes it out on the
wasn't
mom.
Cold enough or something.
Oh no, because she drops.
All she really says is, "This is because of me." We don't know why he beat her up, but I assume it's because she wasn't at home.
She was. She did also.
That was later.
She did mouth off to him too at the event.
Yeah, at the event.
Well, they didn't show him hit her at the event.
No.
Well, no. But I mean, he does something. Oh no, he drops his ear of corn, and he wants another ear of corn, and she's like, okay, well, that's another 75 cents. And
he's like, a fat slob,
right? And
Julie calls him a fat slob.
Yeah, and then she also, when she's kind of like stomping about that, she also drops her side of the cooler full of beer that he made her and her mom carry. To which he's like, hey, you're going to make the beer all, shaking, you're going to shake the beer up or whatever. And it's like, and I think that was probably what instigated any other thing later that eventually leads to him beating up her mom.
Well, there's, I mean, Julie says the reason. But yeah, we'll get there later. That's one of my kind of issues with this movie is how that whole storyline wraps up. But
Yeah,
we'll talk
she's
about that later too.
Julie. Ultimately, unfortunately, even though I think she's really an interesting character and somebody that I kind of like it when she is kind of cheering on Alan when he's fighting Morgan next to Morgan's girlfriend.
Well, no, I'm trying to get to that. I'm trying to get to who she is and why she's there.
Well,
so
I was just okay.
She's there because she leaves her family and she sees Alan and she kind of like makes eyes at Alan and Alan's like, well, sure, why not? You know, he's another townie girl. You know, I think they make reference to the townie girls, and then she's kind of watching with him and getting the inside view of the whole affair, and then she ends up deciding to leave with them. Right? She's another stray that the troop picks up. Question: how old do you think she's supposed to be in this?
18, 17.
I was thinking school age, but I'm not sure.
I don't know.
17.
I was thinking out after high school, but not. I mean, because I don't know.
Could be a small town. Didn't get to college.
Common, yeah,
could
more
be like
common
1920. Yeah.
It's a lot less common that people moved out of their homes.
That's very true.
She has a dad that says you're not dating until you're 21.
So she's not 21. So she could be 20 and is like.
It doesn't. Yeah. I mean, all I'm saying is she's older, but she's still under the thumb.
Well, it makes it weird if she's a minor. Is all I'm saying. But
sure.
But I don't think she is. So
she is naive though a little bit.
Oh, she's very naive, and that's ultimately spells the ending of her and Alan, right? But yeah, she's there. She's hanging with Alan. You've also got oh gosh, the mechanic's name. What is
Angie?
Her name? Angie.
Yeah, that's George Romero's
second wife or first wife. Yeah. And I believe wasn't she a co-producer on Dawn of the Dead? Assistant director and assistant director on Dawn of the Dead. Angie, the mechanic.
Christine Forrest. Yeah.
That's where they met, and then they worked on several films together. Or maybe that's not
they met on Season of the Witch.
Season of the Witch.
Because her role in Martin was written specifically for her. Yeah.
But anyway, she's got a thing for Sir Morgan, played by Tom Savini, and you kind of get a sense that that's an on-again, off-again type deal. Like he won't commit to her, and she has self-esteem issues where she doesn't feel like she's pretty. And
she's also a tomboy, which also carries the weight of is she gay?
Right.
To which she then kind of uses that as a kind of a way to make herself feel better about that by pointing that directly at the guy who is gay in this.
I don't think she's doing that to Pip, but
I don't think she's trying to be mean or mean-spirited. I do think she's projecting a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's the projection
or deflecting a little bit, but also she's like, "Hey, we're a tight-knit community here. We're your friends." I think she's legitimately trying to just let him know that it's a safe space.
There are still certain things that maybe you don't say even to
fair.
I mean, especially if you're not.
But I do agree with Pip. Like, fucking lay off, right? I didn't answer the first 3 times. Like, shut the fuck up. Leave me alone, right? I mean, she oversteps.
Yeah,
100%. Yep.
Shouldn't have done it in public is the real thing.
They
could have had that conversation together.
Well, and they do have a couple of really good conversations later.
They do.
And it's they really do bond. To the point where they become
they're already best friends.
Yeah. But they almost become like
they're best friends already. They say it.
That's part of why I think she's just like, you don't tell me everything. We're as close as you are, but she picked the wrong venue to do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't do that in front of everyone in Tom Savini. And Tom Savini kind of, pokes a little bit.
Everyone in Tom Savini.
Yeah. Everyone and Tom Savini. That's a good one.
Oh my God, the liner notes would be forever on that with
Everyone and Tom Savini. It's like, no way. But yeah, that kind of signifies like another kind of crack, right? Like not everybody feels comfortable being who they are. But even Pip says, I don't know who I am. I'm still trying to figure that out, right? And that's part of the things that I like about this movie is you have a lot of misfit toys, if you will, that have found their island, right? And they're all starting to try. They're all actually. It's not that the concept is breaking apart. It's that these people are starting to grow and maybe able to live another life that's not this fantasy that accepted them, right?
Yeah.
And Pip is one of those people.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's, this isn't the weekly Dungeons and Dragons game where you get together on whatever night,
Right.
you throw dice, you play your whatever, that part of the, whatever it's called, quest, and then you go home, right? You're living with this, so it's like you're now being, this is where LARPing can be a little bit more than just, putting on costumes and doing the thing.
I don't want to drag every DM into this in the world, but if you know any DMs, they take their 1 hour or 2 hours extremely seriously.
Oh yeah, they're spending the rest of the week.
Hold on. That time is very sacred to them. So if you don't involve yourself in it, it's a problem.
Yeah.
And you're talking about people here that are dedicating their whole lives to this. If you're not bought in, it's a problem.
Right.
Billy is the ultimate DM.
Yep.
In this movie, who also doesn't know who he is in some ways, or he thinks he knows who he is, but he can't reconcile that with who he actually is. But yeah.
I mean, you talk about like how DMs take things seriously. I mean, they spend all the week in between whatever the designated D&D night is, working on the next thing. And Billy doesn't really do that. He kind of folds in on himself. Oh, I'm, the blackbird is chasing me. I'm, it's like, I'm not this guy. I'm not that. And this is how we're going to do things. And this is, and it's like,
things are a little on autopilot.
Exactly. And, and like later, there's also, what we don't know until much later is that there's a lot of bad rumblings and bad feelings with the merchants.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they are almost working like, they're working like serfs for Billy instead of being able to sell something for them to have anything of their own.
It's kind of the double-edged sword, right? Because they have decided to come and stay, but that's another food to feed. That's another mouth to feed. And as Lynette says, we've got a goddamn overhead now, right? Mm-hmm. And it keeps getting worse with every new person. So their complaint is, well, we spent too much money on motorcycle parts and all of that stuff. And then Billy counters with, well, that's why people come to the show. They don't come to the show to buy your purses and shit, right? Mm-hmm. It kind of has a point, but it's also kind of Billy, like, betraying himself there. Like, he's a capitalist, too. Like, he knows what pays the bills, right? So he's not giving equal share to, like you said, the serfs. Or at least equal attention. And he comes around to that later. Like he realizes later in the third act that he hasn't been available to everyone. When he sits next to the guy playing the guitar and he listens to him finally, it's like him showing that he's let this get out of hand. And he's mostly at fault.
I wonder what the economic folding in was when it was horses. And not motorcycles, because
I think it was a totally different movie. I think it was a
very good avenue to the breakdown of what they can accomplish, right?
Yep.
Like if it was horses, unless they were dying, like that whole part of the story is probably like one of the most intriguing things is that the resources are depleted. But
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would have to think that the main struggle ultimately in the movie would just be the internal, like, oh, the king is kind of off his rocker. You know?
I think it was supposed to be more classical Arthurian,
Yeah.
the original script. Yeah.
The
And what he did was to make it contemporary. He made it more like about the subtext of that. Yeah.
it's just vastly more interesting, I think, in
yeah,
a contemporary time, like competing with that stuff and trying to be a pure. I mean, not that feudal societies are good. Like, I would argue that what they're trying to have there isn't a good thing.
no,
Right.
no,
Definitely.
yeah,
Go ahead, Jeff.
no. I was just gonna say, it's like I find myself oftentimes getting fascinated with this exact sort of thing, right? Where it's like, oh, okay, so they are kind of living sort of in their own little society, kind of off the grid. They only really interact with the rest of a town or society if they are promoting themselves, right? They'll come through as a parade like a circus would when it comes to town, and they hang up the stuff on the telephone poles and everything. But really, they are like kind of off the grid in a in a time where that was still kind of possible. Like, conceivably, if this group was a little smaller, they would have been able to live this life.
Yeah. And that's the problem. It's gotten too big, and where you have the carny life, the circus life, right? Like that before it kind of turned into Barnum and Bailey and all of that. It was pretty much all independent contractors, right? You had your act, you had your booth, you had the protection of the group, you had the bargaining power of the group, but you were responsible for making your own money. You were doing your own barking, right? You were charging admission for your own show, and that's the money you came away with. Now, some of it goes back into the communal pot, right? Some of it is there, for your protection, for your meals, for the breakdown and takedown of like the big circus tents and the things that bring people in. But by all means, you are making money for yourself. Well, this is grown now into essentially a carnival, right? And it's led by someone who doesn't want to make money. That's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
It's going to be a problem. Like the little vendors are trying to make money for themselves, and they're allowed to do so, selling arts and crafts and things, but it's not enough.
Well, it seems like there's too much piece of that pie going to the king and what he wants to do.
Because it's all going into the pot.
Right.
It's exactly right. It's all going to the pot, and it's going to pay for motorcycle parts.
Yeah, I don't remember a single person that's part of the troupe eating food.
Yeah, I don't either. I never saw their meals together.
There are a couple of scenes where there is a pot, like an old school like pot over a pit, and like it looks like beans or chili or something is probably what's being made. And so there are a couple of scenes where I don't think we ever actually see them having their meal, but I do think that we are given the belief, at least, everybody's just hanging out after the meal, getting ready for bed, and having a little bit of beer, having a little bit of pot, and just kind of unwinding.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember the big kettle, that sort of thing.
So Billy went to jail. Billy and Bagman went to jail. Let's pick up there. And
Julie and Alan are tasked with finding, finding the sheriff, because Julie knows the town.
Right. Correct.
In fact, it is a pretty funny scene when they go to the sheriff's house at like 4 a.m.
With his wife answers, damnable, you're damnable.
And Julie's like, fuck, whatever. It just leaves
Those bikes are damnable. I love the word damnable.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful word.
In a way, there is also that there is a whole counterculture element to this movie.
For sure there is.
Because they are treated that way.
I was kind of hoping, and Chuck could chime in here at any time, but I know Chuck just recently rewatched Easy Rider. I kind of wanted to watch it again before recording this episode to get a little bit of the, not necessarily a counterpoint, but a comparison. Because this is several years later, obviously, a whole decade, more than a decade later. But it's kind of like the Easy Rider guys, if they didn't die at the end of Easy Rider, it would be maybe something they'd be kind of digging in the early 80s, right?
Well, it's
a traveling motorcycle roadshow, right?
Yeah. Maybe it's not the America they find, but the America they make.
Right. Like, and they even have their own lawyer in this, right? They have their own Jack Nicholson in Knightriders.
It's very Easy Rider. I think it is expanding on that idea. Raise your hand if my audio is going wonky because I'm having problems, but it's very Easy Rider. I think it is kind of like an examination, maybe not on purpose, of what would have happened if they kept on their trail and formed kind of a traveling circus.
Yeah.
And Steve is totally like Jack Nicholson from Easy Rider, like 100%. I thought about Easy Rider a lot watching this.
Okay,
I'm not
cool.
doing a great job of explaining it, but yeah.
Cool. I got that feeling too. I want to rewatch Easy Rider. It feels like the perfect time. But yeah, okay, cool. I'm good. I'm glad that sentiment is shared because that was the vibes I was getting, especially with Steve the lawyer. I mean, so Steve the lawyer is just a guy who they hooked up at some point that rides ahead to the towns to set up the date when the carnival will be in, sign all the paperwork and all the legalities out of the way, like make sure everything's kosher. Like, do you want us here? And if we come, what do we need? What rules do we need to play by? Right? He does all the legal bureaucratic crap so that Billy doesn't have to do it. But he only has so many connections, and that's kind of his point. He's like, look, you could be playing bigger towns for more money. You could, if you wanted to, you could do like 3 or 4 of these a year in big towns, and then just live the rest of the rest of the year the way you want to live your life. Just take a few big paydays instead of sing it for your supper every other night. But Billy's just not hearing it. He's just not hearing it. He's like, no, that's not what we're in this for. We're not in this for corporate sponsorships and big crowds. We do just enough to get by, is the impression anyway. He never says those words, but he doesn't really want to make a profit.
Even Bagman tries to talk him out of that. He's like, you have to put your life first because if you die, your ideals die with you.
Yeah, that's a great scene.
It's a wonderful scene. And it's ultra important, and it's something that Billy won't accept.
No.
Like the entire movie. He will not accept it.
Billy is almost to a fault unwilling to really think about himself, but also thinks entirely for himself.
Yeah.
100%. Isn't that weird? Like he's a very complicated character.
He's the most selfish, unselfish person ever.
He's the most selfish, self-centered person on the planet.
Yeah. Well, his idea of being magnanimous is self-serving, if that makes sense, right? It's a bit of he's got a martyr complex.
Yeah, and I think he thinks that everybody truly has the same thoughts and feelings and desires that he does, and it's like you're just not hearing that they don't. It's like maybe because like there is that really good scene after Billy gets out of the tent early on. He's injured, and Morgan's talking to him before that kid comes up, and Morgan is like trying in a nice way to say, it's like, this is all fucked up, dude. It's like, but like he can't really hit Billy with what he really should say because I think some of the people are also scared of hurting Billy's feelings or getting on his bad side and being kind of cast out or whatever. It's I don't know. It's all very weird because, like, again, that's why you cannot look at Morgan as he can be the what's the word I'm looking for? The antagonist, but he's not the bad guy.
No, he's the counterpoint.
Yeah, he's
and there really isn't a good guy either.
No,
there's you could look at Billy as a protagonist, but really he's his own worst enemy.
Yep.
So really, what you just have are just two human beings who are on opposite sides of an ideal, right? And both of them believe in some aspect of it. For all of Tom Savini's, decrying of boy Billy runs things, he's there for a reason. Even if he says it was just for the bikes, he's there for a reason, right?
Yeah.
There's a community that accepted him.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. And so he believes in some element of this, but he also is like, it's coming apart. And if that happens, I gotta make sure I've got the next thing lined up for me. He's thinking about the future. So you've got Billy and Bagman coming back with it's Steve and Merlin, right? They're all traveling to rejoin the group. You've also got Alan, who has taken Julie home and picked up her crap because she's hitting the road with him, and that's where you have the scene where her mom's got the black eye, and Julie says, "He did that because of me, didn't he?" And she doesn't say anything, but yeah, kind of maybe. I mean, I get the impression he beats the shit out of her a lot.
Right. And to a certain extent, this is maybe the first time that you think, oh, I don't know how I feel about Julie. Because she never confronts her. Like, if she's that mad that her dad would beat up her mom, or she is kind of sending some sense of like, I don't know, frustration that her mom is taking the hits for her, right? She just is like, fuck it, I'm out of here. And it's like, you might be killing your mom here,
I don't know.
You know what I mean?
It's certainly not a safe environment.
No, but at the same time,
and she does not have that responsibility to her mother if it's unsafe for her. I'm not gonna go there in this dialogue. Like, she's got to get out of the house. What bothers me is that Alan brings her back, and just leaves her, and we can't hear you, Chuck. And then it's almost played for laughs when the light in the house comes on, and she's like, "Oh shit!" I was like, "Yeah, oh shit!" She's probably gonna get the shit beat out of her, right?
I 100%
that bugs me in this movie.
Sure.
I 100% agree, because the reason these people are in this troupe to begin with feels like Julie's situation.
Yeah.
They don't have a place to be. They're in an unsafe environment. They found something that a group of people they can live with that will support them. And Alan is like, no, you don't qualify for this.
Well, yeah,
for whatever fucking reason.
It's like, look, you don't have to be together, Alan. But maybe she does belong
She
in the
clearly
group.
belongs based on what their criteria seems to be.
Because Alan also, like, the decision is made immediately after her saying, hey, what are you doing up there talking? Aren't we going to have some fun or whatever down by and it's like, well, what did you expect her to want to do there? And it's like, yes, she is being kind of naive and she is being kind of young, but that's on Alan for just picking up a townie and hitting the road with it. It's like,
and a townie
I will say he
who
made
had
that
a
decision
shitty
beforehand, but
who had a shitty home life. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, I'm sure like Lynette would have that would be awkward now, but somebody would have taken her under their
it wouldn't
wing.
have been awkward for Alan, if you know what I mean.
No, I don't know. I mean, like, I just, or
is there somewhere else he could take her? Like, taking her home, that's like the worst thing.
Yeah, because like, Yeah, because she doesn't understand why he's doing it. Like she even tells him, "I don't know. I don't understand why we're here or what you're doing." And I mean, he does kind of make that decision for her, and it's kind of unfortunate. And then it shows that just about every character in this movie is flawed in some way.
Sure.
But again,
I don't think. But my problem though is I don't think that was supposed to be a character flaw moment. I think it was supposed to be you're not the right girl for me. I'm growing as a person. I can't be with you. Now we don't know what to do with this character, so I'm going to take her back home and then play it for a laugh. It's like gross.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's the one thing, the way that Julie's kind of story ends, which is unfortunate because I do like her a lot in the movie. In every scene that she's in, it's like, I like her. And yet, by the end of her story, she does feel extraneous.
Yeah.
It's like you could have just cut that out.
The
completely.
movie discards her just like Alan does. Yeah.
Right. And it's just like, why was she even in this movie at this point?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Because she was the person that everyone explained the inner goings to us.
Fair enough.
She was a plot device. Yeah.
She was our eyes. Yeah.
She was us. Yeah. We are the newbie. Yeah. That's a good point. It would have
been way cooler if she grew in a way that she became a part of the group that didn't distinctly relate to Alan, which would have made this group even more impactful.
Which is
in general,
like if she had made other friends, right? Like people she connected with.
Of the group, like where she contributed that did not relate to Alan, would have 100%. Made the whole group make more sense.
Exactly, because like this is exactly why I started thinking about the movie Carney, is because Jodie Foster is the Julie character in this.
Okay.
Because she runs away from home to join the carnival. At first to be with Gary Busey, then ends up messing around with Robbie Robertson. But in the meantime, she makes other friends and becomes part of the community.
Yeah, right.
And she does not get dumped at the end. She stays with them, Yeah.
Thank God she didn't end up with Gary Busey.
I don't know. They were actually kind of cute together.
Where's Gary Busey?
Oh, boy.
That was good Gary Busey in 1980, by the way.
He was still good in Silver Bullet too.
Yep.
He was good. He was good for a while.
I mean, I love Gary Busey.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to be in bed with him though. That's for sure.
Fair enough.
Let's see.
So basically, they're headed to the other town now.
They're all going to converge on the other town.
At one point, Billy in the car with Merlin, or in the truck with Merlin, is kind of lamenting the situation.
Yeah.
Why did they go ahead? Why is this happening? And it's kind of having a pity party. And Merlin's like, I ain't fucking dealing with this.
Yeah.
And basically gives him what for.
And then eventually Billy defies Merlin's wishes and gets on a bike. He takes Steve's bike in the middle of the night. And he's like, I'm gonna ride off ahead of you all. I got to get back to the group. And he does. And there's a parade. This is also like one of those old time things you just don't see anymore, with like traveling circuses or anything. Traveling shows. They do a parade in town to announce their arrival. To drum up ticket sales. Like Friar Tuck is selling tickets. He's like, come over, to the parking lot over here, and I'll sell you advanced tickets. Yeah, Friar Tuck.
Well, before the parade, though, they have met.
Yeah, this is important.
Bontempi, Sheila, and I don't know what the girl's name that ends up becoming Friar Tuck's girlfriend.
Oh boy, there's a scene that is insane.
She's a photographer. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, she's a photographer who's basically working with Sheila at that point. And now Bontempi is played by Martin Ferrero. Do you guys remember the scene after the car catches on fire in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, and they try to get a hotel room with the charred?
Yeah, I know him.
Yeah,
I knew
that's it. Yep. It's like, oh yeah, he's always this kind of sleazy kind of guy.
He was the sleazy guy.
Besides Ed Harris and Steve, whom I know, this was the guy I recognized the most in this movie.
Wasn't he like a sleazy guy in Jurassic Park too? Was he the lawyer?
Was he the lawyer in
he
that?
might be
Yes,
the
he
lawyer
was.
in that.
He was Gennaro. Yeah, he was the
Yeah.
guy who was eaten off of the shitter by the T-Rex.
Yes. Yeah, real piece of shit guy. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Made a career out of it.
You guys have great memories.
But anyway, no, he just has that face that you recognize. I'm like, wait a minute, I know who this guy is. No, so, but yeah, basically, there's already been a deal put into place, seemingly for a television pilot for their shenanigans. That's the best way I'm going to describe it.
Because a kind of a combination of Steve the lawyer and Morgan behind the scenes have been, drumming up, talking to people, and they have an offer on the table to fund the company and do the big towns, the big events. Like they're going to be Barnum and Bailey Circus. They're going to be the traveling medieval times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
what's interesting about this is Billy has a non-recognition of the fact that this kind of deal would dispel the Jim Jones Evil Knievel stuff, because what's happening to him is the public only sees what they see, which is their show. Right? And their show exudes a certain thing.
Right.
If they were to see Billy in his element day to day, hour to hour, behind the scenes, they'd realize that he was a different person.
Yeah.
But he is pushing that off. So he's his own worst enemy in that sense. That's all I wanted to say there.
No, yeah,
that's perfect. It's a good point. It's a great point, because he's not seeing the benefit to this, because it would maybe help him continue to live in his fantasy.
Yeah.
Right? But maybe there's another part of him, the little man inside, who knows that it would be bad for him. Right?
Well, yeah, because it would
be bad for him to allow that kind of megalomania to be able to creep in, have those types of crowds. That could really damage him further.
Well, there's another issue that kind of comes up almost immediately, which is the crowd that is going to be tuning into this or wanting to be present for this isn't really, like, the first crowd that we saw is really kind of into the whole Ren Fair element of it.
Sure.
The next crowd wants to play modern music, wants to, wants a more party-like atmosphere, and it breaks Billy.
The second time they do the show in that second town is so, I don't know. I love that scene, but it's also like so many things going wrong at once and over time, and it's like everything. It is
There's
physical
too much anxiety.
It's the physical. Yeah, it's so much anxiety. It's a physical manifestation of where this group has been heading, right?
Right.
And we as audience members are dropped into this movie like the stop before the complete implosion, right?
Yeah.
So what do we have here? We have Pip in this show who's questioning his involvement because his king keeps getting involved in fights. Right? We have the people who play the trumpet music who no longer believe that this is sustainable, and they fucking walk out playing rock music instead, or whatever song is playing. I think it's rock music.
It's like some kind of disco rock, yeah.
We have the townspeople, including a dude with a fucking Nazi symbol stamped on his head, wearing his own armor and taking the weapons and doing the towny thing that they weren't supposed to do. The wildest thing in this fucking movie, and it looks real, is during a fight with Stone. Is it Stormy or Stone? I can't remember. She gets knocked off her bike and her bike flies into
Rocky.
Yeah. Thank you. I knew it was something like Stormy or Stone or Rocky.
She's awesome.
Flies in the crowd and hits that lady in the face.
I know.
It legit looks like it hits her in the face.
It looks so real. And
did she throw it and they do it in reverse? Like, I don't.
I know. So in the previous show, in the first town, there was a moment where a bike gets away, and they block it. You have a couple people who run in and block it.
Well, yeah, they're kind of like the clowns at a bullfight.
Yeah, exactly, or the rodeo clowns.
Right.
But then, this one, everything's broken down. So there's nobody's at their posts. And of course a bike gets loose. And yeah, it hits a ramp. It looks like it's going to hit at a baby in a stroller. And it's on track to do it, but he hits the rope ramp, like at the end of the arena, and it launches. And it does. It looks like it hits that lady flat in the face. Is it a dummy?
I would have to think it might be. Or, yeah, I don't know. But yeah, you're right. It's crazy.
It is crazy. And it's like, whoa, that should be the end. They're all happy later that she's going to be okay. And then Billy makes a joke about, were you worried, Steve, about our insurance premiums going up? He's like, yeah, you fucking should be. You shouldn't just be worried about your insurance premiums going up. You should be worried about involuntary manslaughter charge. You should be worried about, like, getting your ass sued at minimum at this point. Like, you think you're going to have a show at all? Nope. And word gets out, like, that kind of shit travels from town to town. Oh, yeah. There was a lady in the last town who got hit in the fucking face by a motorcycle. I don't think you'd bring your kids to that show. You're going to start attracting more of the wrong element.
Although, but like many, many times back in the old days, shit flew into the crowd at the 500.
Yeah, people know what they're getting into for that.
But the ticket does have
$1 million.
The ticket
they could absorb the rarity of someone being seriously injured.
Most of the time, the ticket actually says we're not at fault for. Yeah.
They're still gonna like do what they can do,
right? But no,
from a PR standpoint, they'll do their damage control. This is totally different. Scale.
There's going to be
completely different scale. Like this operation is going to get shut down.
Yeah,
there is people are going to jail.
Yeah. By the way,
real jail, not like fake shakedown jail.
Yeah.
Shakedown Jail. That's the name of my second new band.
Is that the spinoff of Everyone and Tom Savini?
Yeah.
Former members of Everyone and Tom Savini.
Yeah, it's the super group that's made. Yeah. Cynthia Adler plays Rocky. And Rocky does Cynthia Adler does a lot of voice work, or did a lot of voice work. Interesting things that she has done voice work for The Muppet Show.
Oh, wow.
She did a voice for the English version of Fantastic Planet. She also was a narrator on Brain Games. Do you remember that from HBO?
Brain Games are over.
Yeah, it was. Yep. She was a narrator for one of the games there, but she had a few voices for the 1974 film Down and Dirty Duck, which...
Wait, what?
Go check that out on B-Movie Enema, the series. It is basically a Fritz the Cat knockoff.
Oh, okay. All right. I got the vibe then.
Yep. So anyway, she's kind of awesome in this movie.
She is awesome.
Because like at one point she just fucking runs her motorcycle into some dudes and takes them out.
Yeah, she's the one who starts the "you forgot your basics" to Tom Savini.
Yeah, I think she's the one who chases down the dude that has the Nazi symbol.
Yes,
and sends his bike into the weeds and it explodes. That is also very. What's the movie you were talking about?
Easy Rider.
Oh my God. Easy Rider, Easy Rider with the bike exploding on the side of the road.
Really? Yeah. It was very like fake, kind of poofy explosion too.
That's how it looks in Easy Rider.
That's how it looks in Easy Rider.
Yeah.
It might be honestly more realistic if you had like a small ignition of your.
There's real flames that look real. I mean,
I don't think it would explode like it would explode in a Lethal Weapon movie or something.
Oh no, that would explode.
I'm getting till explode for this shit.
But also at this, when the townies start getting in on the fight, Billy recognizes that there's a Native American gentleman there who on his armor has two black birds. And he's like, this is it. This is the moment. This is what's been chasing me.
Yep. And he's like oblivious to everything falling down around him at this point. He's like locked in on his blackbird. Yep.
It's really kind of cool.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
And he ends up fighting against that guy despite everybody saying that he needs to stop, he needs to take care of himself, all of this. He does eventually defeat the guy, but he also is in pretty bad shape. But instantaneously, this guy is now fucking part of the troop. It's like he is there with his king for the rest of the movie.
100% the coolest shot in this is when he puts the sword on his chest to get him to
Yield.
Yield. Thank you.
Yep.
And the blood from his neck wound or chest wound is coming down onto the chest plate.
Yep.
I'm like, damn, that's fucking cool.
Yeah, and the guy sees it too, and I think that's why he sticks around. I
mean, he stumbles over there. To make him yield.
Because ends up one of his other knights ends up with the sword against the guy's breastplate. Yeah, but anyway, but in the aftermath of all of this, Tom Savini's gone. He's taken the deal to be on TV, and he basically turns into Motorcycle Riding Kiss, like the band.
God.
Yeah,
Their
that.
uniforms are so bad.
God.
Oh God,
when
it's all like painted foam fingers and stuff.
I know, and when all of that,
Pool noodles.
Yeah, pool noodles. Yeah.
When all of that falls apart, and he returns, I'm like, God, he comes back, looking like an asshole. It's like
I do like the scene though where they're all coming back and all the bikes are like falling into formation and they're all like goofy pool noodle armor, but it looks pretty cool.
That scene's great. So real quick, cool. I'll do like a quick run through of what happens there.
Okay.
Because after all of that, so like you said, Morgan leaves with his half of the crew to do the TV thing.
Yep.
They end up living the life for a few days at the pool of the TV or magazine guy, whoever the hell he is. Give me dope! And the woman
it's like his Jason Mewes moment.
It is kind of funny. The woman that he's dating ends up being married. There's like a weird fight at a hotel, maybe with underage girls there.
Yeah, something weird going on.
It's all bad, man. Yeah, it's
so
just
he realizes that life is not for him.
Yeah, he doesn't want to be a rock star. He wants to be. He's there for the bikes, man.
Yeah.
He also sees that the guys he brought along with him, maybe they need a little more structure than this, right?
Billy,
yes, they're
not ready. Yeah, they're not ready to be living this life.
Well, and he's not ready to be Billy,
right?
Well, for another day.
Well, but I mean, but not in this. Not in this environment.
He's never going to be Billy.
No,
but he's going to be who he is. But he has seen the value in the
last time we see him in this movie. Yes. The last shot of him proves he's not going to be. There's a lot of questions on his.
Sure.
On his face.
everything he did before this shows he's not going to be Billy because he's the progression of the group.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. But it doesn't have to be a giant leap forward.
Yes. Yeah. I think he'll pay off the cop. I think he'll take the small deal kind of thing. So while he is learning that lesson, Alan is learning another lesson on the road, I guess, and dropping Julie off, which we talked about earlier.
We've talked about that enough, yeah.
Yes. And they both converge back at the base with Billy, and probably the most touching and kind of emotional moment in the film is when Alan's like, we're both here to fight for you. If Morgan wins, he's the king, basically. And if we win, we're fighting in your honor. And Ed Harris's face and cry, I'm like, oh my God, that looks like he's really, really emotional about this whole thing.
Yeah,
it's almost as if he's
selling it for sure.
It's almost as if he's going to be a 4-time Oscar nominee.
yeah.
I like to see where they talk about the battleground and the boundaries of the weapons and
it's great.
So here's the hard question. Yeah, because he's agreed to retire. Like either Alan or Morgan will be king. That's how this is going to come down. And of course, he's kind of pulling for Alan. Maybe some of the audience members are pulling for Alan because more of the same, or you don't have the necessarily the big worries that comes with Morgan's leadership. But watching this movie at this point in my life, I'm kind of like, I think both of them are going to be fine. I think everyone's going to be fine. The fact that they could settle it this way amicably, it means they're all going to be fine.
Well,
right?
not only amicably.
The only thing that won't be fine is if Billy stays the leader.
Right. Correct.
Right.
And that's not going to. But that's not going to happen.
No, I'm just saying that's the only
right.
outcome that would not be fine.
He's understood this too. Yeah, I mean, like,
and he's kind of told. He's like, look, you sit on your ass. This is it. You're retiring.
Yeah.
You can't do this anymore. And he agrees. But I love when they talk about surrender. And he looks at Morgan. He's like, you're not going to surrender. And Morgan just gives him that smile. Tom Savini, it's a perfect little scene. And he looks at Alan. He's like, you're not going to surrender. It's like this neat little the reforming of a bond that
the dynamic
that had withered over time has suddenly come back and is being embraced, and it's all for a positive good. You get the feeling. To me, at that point in the movie, I'm like, man, the joust scene is going to be awesome because the stunts are going to rule, but I already feel like there's already been a catharsis here, right? Mm-hmm. But then, the big question is what happens to, and indeed, the winner is Morgan. And it doesn't feel like the funeral you would expect it to be, like they're trying to set it up to be, maybe. Billy's super gracious about it. He takes his crown off. He puts it on Morgan's head. He takes the crown. Oh, no, Lynette takes her crown off, gives it to Morgan. He then, in turn, gives it to, God, what's her name?
Angie.
Susie? The mechanic.
Angie,
the mechanic. Yeah.
I love that. I said Angie. You said Susie? I'm like, wait, what?
Biff?
No, it's John.
But then it's kind of like, okay, well, what happens next, right? Where does this movie go now?
Well, Lynette walks to Alan. You do need to say that at least.
Right, yes. Lynette and Alan, she goes out to Alan. Like, Alan is probably the saddest person in the camp, right? I think for him, he really did want to win, and he thinks he'd be a better leader, and he probably still has his reservations about Morgan. But Lynette goes to him, and they embrace, and it's like, oh, okay, this thing has finally come together, right?
Well, and also think of it like this too. It's like if if he won, I'm not so sure that Lynette wanted to still be queen.
That's fair.
And so it's like, she's probably going to be better for him than him being king. Does that make sense? Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Yeah.
Yes, I agree with that. But then, now it's Billy. Billy is no longer king. He seems content.
He's free.
He seems like he is, he's at peace with that idea. But, it's kind of like a weird thing that it's not discussed in the movie. But does he have to leave? Does him leaving, does that signify that he can't be there if he's not king? Like, is it too much for him, or is he leaving because his presence might be a confusion to the group?
That's a good question.
Billy has been bleeding, right?
Yeah,
both physically and. What's the word? You know the word.
Spiritually.
I think he doesn't have to leave. He could retire in this village, but he has unfinished business. A promise he made.
That's true. Yeah. He does. He does have a promise.
Billy will keep.
Uh-huh.
So I think he says his goodbyes, and I think everyone is understanding that he's leaving because that's Billy.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I could see Morgan retiring and having his kid take over or something like that, but not Billy.
Yeah.
Billy has a promise. He has a destiny to fulfill, and a blackbird on the road he has to pass a couple times.
Yep.
Yeah.
And one that's following him too.
Uh-huh.
Because when he leaves,
times, yeah.
Well, I'm talking about the Native American, because he doesn't know that he's coming with them until he leaves, and then just a few seconds later, all of a sudden out tears the Native American, who stays behind him the whole time. I don't think he recognizes that he's there until they actually make their first stop, which is the school.
Oh, I think he knows he's there.
Was the school the first? No, the school is the second stop.
Is the school the second stop?
First stop is the convenient.
That's right.
The fast food restaurant where the cop is.
Yeah, that's right, because it's later that night.
But that is where he meets Billy, because Billy comes in and it kind of gives him a look, and he's like, "There's one." All right, so what happens in this scene? He confronts the cop that was trying to shake them down, that beat up the bag man.
He told him, but when he was being drugged
that I'm going to come for you. Yeah,
I'm coming to get you. I'm going to fuck you up.
And he does. He fucks him up real good. And then the whole
the little lady,
restaurant starts to slow clap it. It's so bizarre.
My favorite thing though is the little old lady charging them for everything.
Yes. Oh yeah.
And then the fucking Indian pays for it. Yeah. Whatever he pulls off.
He pulls like a silver star or something. Yeah, and he pays for it with some silver.
Yeah, because Ed Harris looks at the register. He's like, And he just kind of nods, and he looks at the Indian, and he just leaves. He's like, "You got this? All right, good."
But then he goes to the school.
Yeah.
Right.
And this is so great. The teacher's teaching a lesson, and Billy walks in, and the kid who wanted his signature before, his autograph before, is in the class, and he walks over to him. He hands him his belt, or his sword belt, and his sword.
Yeah.
And he rustles his hair and walks outside, and the kid's like, "Whoa!" And every kid in the class is like, "Holy shit!" Yeah.
Ken Foray made that sword. Holy shit!
Yes, he did. He did. And then Billy walks outside, sees the hose laid over his bike from the fellow that's following him, takes a drink, sprays his face off, rides on the road, kind of, I guess, in his mind, dives into his fantasy.
Well, he's bleeding out. Yeah.
He's going to die.
Yeah.
He's going to die anyway. But he's bleeding out. He's going to die, but he sees himself in his fantasy riding a white horse, and then he just gets destroyed by a truck.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the Indian fellow that's been following him brings his body back to camp.
Yeah.
Which is why, that was kind of like a kamikaze mission. And this guy followed him to bring his spirit back to the group, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's I was watching that, and I was like, first of all, I kind of thought it's this is maybe the only way Billy has to end. I don't think there is a life for Billy after the camp.
I think Billy's going to die anyway.
Yeah. He's not really fit for the real world.
He,
what's he going to do? Go get a job at McDonald's or something? No way.
No, I think
but you know what I mean?
Camp, but I think even the camp itself is going to progress beyond.
Right. He's not really fit
He might just know he's always going to be that annoying guy who's dissenting at every decision, being a prickly pear at every council meeting, if they still have those, right? He knows. He knows it's got to change, but it's not the change that he wants, that he can live with, so that's why he leaves. But he accepts it, and I think he accepts everything. It's that look on his face before he dies is one of I dare say almost joy. Right? Mm-hmm. At bare minimum, there is a peace.
Yeah. I would say it's more peace than acceptance of the progression, because he's thinking even back before the bikes.
Sure.
To a time that doesn't even exist anymore.
And he can also say that he never sacrificed his ideals.
He never sold out. His ideals died with him.
Right.
Just like Batman said. Yeah. Well, and but the watching that when he gets hit by the truck, and I think, we'll get there in time. But in a couple of weeks, we're going to watch another guy get fucking destroyed by a truck on a bike too.
We are.
Uh-huh.
Oh no.
Anyway, Anyway, we'll get there. But yeah, no, I mean, and like they come together for the funeral at the end, and and to be honest with you, I kind of sat here and wondered. It's like, I started to kind of really think. It's like, what happens after this? It's like this was one of those situations where the movie ended, and I was perfectly satisfied with the movie. I don't want a fucking sequel or anything, but I did start to wonder what happened to some of these people,
Oh, did you want the American Graffiti ending?
No, but I started thinking, it's like, oh, did they, did Alan stick around? Did he move on? Did he and Lynette just go off and have a regular life? Was Morgan a good king? Did he finally settle down with Angie? And so, so I got to thinking about stuff like that.
It is a little telling. So here's my thoughts, since you thought about it. Everyone that is shown at the funeral is at a distance. Mm-hmm. Nobody is standing, like there's distinct groups that are separate from one another, standing farther apart from each other. So that leads me to think that maybe the group didn't survive. However, everything that Morgan said and did during the movie made me think he can help this group survive. Yeah. So I think it's kind of hopeful without knowing.
Yeah. I mean,
what I like about your pondering, Jeff, it means we have interesting characters here that we followed for over 2 hours.
Absolutely.
There was an investment in these people, and that's like the last thing I was expecting when I put this movie in a couple years ago to watch it. I was not expected to completely invested in these people and in this community. Right?
Yeah, and
that's
the
like
kind
the
of ponder
beauty of this movie.
Yeah, it's like to ponder what their existence is going to be like. I mean, I
think they're good.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fine too. But I am kind of curious, like,
and people will come and go, but that's normal. Yeah,
right. It's like I'm kind of curious, like, well, what happened to him 20 years later? What happened to him 25? Is there a whole bustling community because of kids or whatever? Is there, did some just decide, this was good, but I got to go and do another thing now? Or did one of them break free from being a knight and become like a promoter for them? Or whatever.
That's the next progression for this group if they become larger, right? Because there are no children.
Exactly.
Right. They did not.
There was one shot of a kid dressed in like period garb working at one of the little craft shops. I think it was supposed to imply that there are families here, but they're definitely not focused on. Yeah.
Right. They might have been like the shop people might be more like, your kind of hippie couples that have like kids.
Showed up. Showed up in this with our child. But
that could be too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, it's like, I mean,
it's fun to wonder.
Yeah, it's fun to wonder because a good movie with even better characters should make you ask those types of questions and make you wonder those types of things. And that's what makes this a surprisingly, you said the word earnest, Jason. It's like, yeah, this is a real movie.
Yeah.
It's like it's a real movie trying to tell a real story. It's maybe not conventional in the story that it's telling, and it's not conventional in the sense that it has a real plot necessarily, except for character development. But man, I mean, it is just.
But where were the zombies?
So my last thought on this movie, is I don't even know if I like this movie. I really don't. But I enjoyed this movie. Yeah, if that makes sense. I can't place it like on a scale of enjoyability. I almost feel like it should have been a 10-episode show.
Huh, yeah.
It feels
I would get on board for a Knightriders miniseries. Yeah.
That's what it feels like. It feels like a melodrama that like it is surprising as a movie and it's incomplete but complete. Like I don't know how to feel about it. But I enjoyed watching it. That's all.
Yeah. No, I mean, I really liked it. But you said melodrama. It's kind of funny because like the first act is like all Ren Fair stuff, right? Second act is all the melodrama, and the third act is the breakups and getting back together. It's like the melodrama part really surprised me because that could have fallen real flat on its face of how over the top some of the scenes were with the melodrama, particularly when Ed Harris like really digs in.
Oh,
and
yeah.
he's like yelling at the cop or he's like freaking out about something. That could have fallen flat on his face. And with the lesser actor, I'm sure it would have.
And a lot of it is because it's if it were a lesser actor, yeah, it's Ed Harris, absolutely. He gives the movie weight. It does.
It's surprising, as good of an actor as Ed Harris is, that he was never a big star. He was more like a really, really, really top tier character actor who could lead a movie, but wasn't like a leading man.
Yeah, I never got like the big Denzel.
Yeah,
paychecks,
well, he's
kind of like Tommy Lee Light, right? In a way, Tommy Lee Jones Light.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, Tommy Lee Jones could carry a movie, but yeah, he's going to be more of a character actor. He's going to play a character, a fully fleshed out character. But like, yeah, Ed Harris is not going to be above Nicolas Cage or Sean Connery in the listing of The Rock's credits. You know, he's always going to be third.
Stand up to them in a scene.
He absolutely can stand up to them in a scene, but he will never be higher than third in that billing. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, that point exactly. Wait, what movie were you talking about? Sorry.
The Rock.
Okay, yeah, exactly.
He's going to stand toe to toe with both of those leaders or the leading men, but he is never going to be the leading man in any universe where, you know, he's playing in the other characters.
I mean, he's far and away the best thing about The Abyss. Like, he is so good in that movie. It's so watchable, so likable and relatable. Ugh, he's awesome. I mean, that character, that performance is the reason I keep coming back to that movie. It's really good.
I just recently watched that, like recently in the last year, and yes, he is definitely the best part of that movie.
Yeah.
By a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, he's awesome in that.
Anything else on this one or next week-ish times?
I don't have anything else on this. Oh, go ahead.
I do have one last thing about Ed Harris. He is going to be in a movie that I'll be seeing very soon called Love Lies Bleeding. He plays the dad in that.
Dad Harris.
Well, he plays
days.
I think he's
73.
He's Kristen Stewart's dad in that. Yeah. And he's
73.
Like the bad guy.
He's got a good another 10 years of acting. I was thinking he was kind of like maybe retired, but he's still good to go.
Yeah. All right. So, I don't have anything. I think it's an interesting movie. It is not a movie for everyone. I do have questions about who exactly this movie was made for.
It was made
for everyone.
It was made for George Romero. I mean,
because it's not made for bikers. It's not made really. Maybe some fantasy people would like it because there is that Arthurian element to it, but it's too modern for it to really fulfill that, to itch that. But,
maybe people who work at Ren fairs probably like it.
Probably, but even then, it's like there's such a biker element to it, though, too, right?
Or maybe it's so weird. It was made for you.
It was made for us, Jason.
There's some sort of nexus out there that we haven't defined, but
George Romero.
2/3 of film Seizure.
Yeah, 40 years ago, George Romero was like, there are going to be a couple of guys who are going to really dig the shit out of this.
All right, what is next week?
Hold on, my last thing I was going to say was that Ed Harris. There was an interview with him on the disc, and he speaks very fondly of this movie. He speaks very fondly of George Romero. They're still, they were at the time of the interview, still friends. We've lost George in the recent years. But he said that, he recognizes that the Knight Rider didn't really do anything for his career. He said it did a lot for him in learning his craft and learning acting and working with a close-knit group of actors in a small confined environment. Thank you. It's like they all stayed at like a Red Roof Inn or something like that. And it's like it was his first taste of being a leading man more than anything, which he had never had before. So he just said he learned so much about the movie industry, about making movies, about his craft of acting, that he thinks, it helped him in his career that way. Yeah.
It shows. Yeah.
And he does. He does not take a scene off in this movie. He's committed 100%. Yep.
No, like he's all in. Like I almost expected him to be King Billy all the time.
Yeah.
Just like I expected, every off day from Creepshow, he's just dancing around.
Dude. I'm looking at my notes real quick. I got to mention a couple more things. All the Steeler hats. Oh my God, so many Steeler hats. The Silver Bullet Enterprises. Did you notice that?
Oh,
yes.
The freaking scene with Friar Tuck and the photographer.
Oh, yes.
With them having pizza sex. They're having pizza sex in like the back of his trailer.
Yes.
Whoa. That's probably like the most exploitative thing in the movie. Man, that was weird. And then the Tom Savini photo shoot.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
That's when I said they turned into Kiss.
Unbelievable. Oh, yeah. with the it's like a hair metal album cover, right?
And the rest of the guys saying, "When do we get our turn?"
Right.
Race freely.
The amount of nudity in the movie also was unexpected because, like, that is really the only thing that makes this an R-rated movie. Yeah. Otherwise, it doesn't need to be R-rated. It probably greatly hurt its reach. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah.
I don't know. A lot of mufflers were shown.
A lot of mufflers. Although I'd also I don't know, throwing a couple breasts into the movie
I was instantly glued in the first 30 seconds. I was like, "What? Yeah. Hey, wait a minute. What are we getting?"
But this isn't a movie you want to be PG-13, right? Because
I guess not. I mean,
it's not made for 13-year-old boys.
I know, but I mean, not every movie that's PG-13 is made for. But it doesn't. It's still.
You know what I mean, though.
I know.
It's not made for. It's not really made for. This is a movie that is a very adult-themed movie, and I don't mean that from the sexuality aspect of it. It's just Chuck frozen on my screen because he's got a.
No,
oh my God!
I don't think so.
He's getting the best. All right, we're gonna end this.
All right,
we're gonna end this right here.
So yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I don't know. I disagree that it didn't necessarily need to be R-rated. Although I get what you're saying, this is a very mature thing. But yeah, anyway,
I think it's a movie that should limit its audience because the right people, the right age group, I think, kind of needs to see this movie.
You just don't want to be in an auditorium with teenagers watching Knightriders for 2 hours and 26 minutes.
Where are the zombies? That's all they would say the whole time.
Yeah, that's
Where are the zombies? Yeah.
Fair enough. Anyway, next week, it's time to put 2023 to rest. I mean, we do this always 2 months late.
Yeah,
which is fine. We have to. We got to catch up.
There's so much to catch up on at the end of the year.
And you guys don't have A-list, so you guys have to catch up to me. So it's fine.
There's just a lot of movies don't get a release until like the end of the year. And some of them, like Zone of Interest, didn't come to Indianapolis until the middle of January. Late January. Yeah. So
although it was rentable on Amazon before it even played in the theater. Here.
It was like $20. Yeah.
No, it was $6. The same. I almost rented that instead of another one that same night.
Let's not argue.
Anyway, the point
you
is,
probably get the idea. We're going to do our best of 2023.
Yeah, I've got. I think we'll probably try not to be 3 hours and too much alcohol as we were last year.
It was fun though.
but yeah, we'll talk about some of our favorite movies of the year, and then we'll give our rundowns and hand out the David Gordon Green Memorial Award for Worst of the Year. Also,
I haven't even thought about that.
I think you know which one mine is going to be.
You just put it in my head, though. Yeah.
Well, you guys matched last year. Maybe we matched this year. I don't know.
Oh,
anyway,
man, maybe.
Anyway, so that is next week. That's next Wednesday, February 28th. Not the last day of February this year, but that's when it's going to happen. filmseizure.com is where you can go find out about that, and also find all the places where you can subscribe to the podcast at various places and follow us on social media. Also at filmseizure.com on Monday the 26th is a new episode of Monster Mondays. It's King Kong Escapes. It's the last movie of my Toho Monsters Month that are not Godzilla. So
Yay.
why not finish it with King Kong, the other super famous guy? So that is that's upcoming on Monday, same place, filmseizure.com. This upcoming Friday, the 23rd, at bmovieanima.com, I have a review that you can read for Boggy Creek 2 and The Legend Continues.
Yes.
I like that movie way more than I probably should. I don't give a shit.
You've got monster.
Exactly. So anyway, that is at bmovieanima.com. But until then, when we reconvene to wrap up our 2023 thoughts, I'm Jeff Arbuckle.
I'm trying to fight the dragon.
And I am Jason Oliver, and you have been listening to Film Seizure.